guys, welcome back. It's Friday morning, and we're back here. We're going to talk about keto, intermittent fasting. Bring your questions. The number is 866-561-4292. And again, I have to say this, anything that I say is not meant to diagnose or act as medical advice. Check with your doctor. This is meant for your own research, to give you ideas to kind of further, do deeper research into your health problems, okay? We've got a lot of calls, and we're going to jump right in. So we're going to go to Sanjay from Columbia, Maryland. Go ahead, Sanjay. You're on.
Hello, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
Hi. Good afternoon to you. And I just have wanted to thank you for all your videos, but I want to personally thank you for finally giving me the solution to solve my diabetes problem.
Wow.
And I just wanted to just share that success with you.
Wow. Did you have type 2?
Yeah, I had type 2 diabetes, which was diagnosed in 2016. And before that, I was going through a lot of back pain, and I got 3 cortisone shots. And I think that increased my blood sugar, which led to diabetes. And my sugar, when my doctor detected it, it was like in 300s.
Wow.
And so in 2016, my A1C was about 8.8.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started eating metformin immediately. I was on the highest dose, like 2,000 mg per day.
Wow.
And then, was on it for like 1.5 years until I found you in October of last year.
Uh-huh.
And I was looking for a solution how to solve this diabetes problem, because I knew it could be solved.
Yeah.
So, and then I went on your plan, eating 7 to 10 cups of salad and all the other things you tell in your videos. Like I followed all of them, and also supplemented myself heavily on all the things, on potassium, on B vitamins, on nutritional yeast, everything you said, like chromium, manganese, everything. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So now I just got the numbers. I want to just show you. I just want to share it with you quickly. So last August, I got my work done, and my blood sugar was fasting blood sugar was 123,
Mm-hmm.
and my fasting insulin was 8.3, and my C-reactive protein was 4.88. It was the ref range was 0 to 3.
Okay.
It's called C-reactive protein cardiac.
Got it.
And my triglycerides were 292, HDL was 41, which was a little above 39 is the basic. And then my VLDL, something called very low density lipoprotein, that was 58, very high. That was in August of last year. Then I started your program in October, and now I got it done a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And my fasting glucose is 97.
Wow.
And also my A1C was 6.4. Like from 8.8, it had gone down to 6.4.
Sanjay, this is incredible, incredible. I hate to just cut you off, but I just have so many callers, but this is amazing. Well done on this. It just proves that you can turn this stuff around. And I wanted just to say one quick thing is that the thing I think that's missing in healthcare is a doctor doesn't ask what are you eating and then give you the right information. It's mainly let's prescribe, let's treat it without understanding what's causing it. Sanjay, thank you so much for your success story. That is awesome. All right, cool. Hey, Ruth, you're from Texas. You've been waiting for 60 minutes. Go ahead, you're on the line.
It's my pleasure to wait.
Oh, thanks.
I started your program in August, and I was also pre-diabetic, and I noticed immediately when I started that my blood sugars went down quite easily, just with vegetables and protein and healthy fats. I eventually got to 1 meal a day in January, and now I do 1 to 2 meals a day. But what I've noticed recently is that it seems that my insulin has become more sensitive, in that I can feel my fingers stiff at night, my hips and knees. and then it seemed like now my sugar is going back up. My diet hasn't changed. I'm still just on vegetables, but like cucumbers, carrots, even the protein itself seems to be raising it. And I don't know if maybe it's the supplements, because the only thing I've changed is supplements. I've added stuff to help with energy and mood, like the L-tryptophan, the pantothenic acid, the benfotiamine. Those are the things that I've added. Would that affect my insulin and the resistance of the sugar?
No, but the L-tryptophan is a protein which can influence that. So that could be one thing. It's one of those things that we want to isolate what it is, so we have to almost like take away one thing at a time or test one thing at a time, because you're doing so many things we don't know. Like if your sugar went up, but you started having really good improvements, let's say you felt great, your arthritis went away, that would be one thing. But if you said you're getting more stiffness, then this is what I think could go on. I don't know if it's more insulin. I think what could be happening is that it might be higher levels of ketones that could be increasing more of your pH. Like your pH could be off a little bit, in which case you may want to try to add a little bit more calcium, magnesium to counter the pH. Even some people are predisposed to uric acid. They could have a little bit more uric acid and feel a little more arthritic from being on keto. So we want to alkalize them a little bit. So that's one thing I would test. But I think with you, I would have to just isolate one thing at a time, because there's so many things going on, and then see what aggravates it. Take one thing away or add one thing, either way, and then see what can do to resolve this. Is the stiffness the only thing that is worsening it, or is there other things that are also an issue, like cravings, anything like that?
Well, I'm still feeling sleepy after a meal. That's why I assumed it was the insulin.
Okay.
Okay. And I just have kind of let it go simply because I'm eating good. I mean, I don't even do the keto treats or the fat bombs. Mine is just purely salads, the 7 to 10 cups, 3 ounces of protein, and then a cooked vegetable.
Yeah.
I even drink the shakes, and I'll put the sprouted flax seeds and the nutritional yeast and the lemon juice, and we'll blend it all up and drink that. So I feel pretty confident about my diet because, like I said, I'm not doing any cheat foods. Now, again, recently, I'm just saying this past week, I've had more of the sugar cravings.
Okay.
So I know that means the sugar's high, but I don't understand why it would be high if I'm still eating vegetables and meat.
Yeah. So there's two
it's like
two things I would look
Go
at.
ahead.
One is if you still have this, it just means that you're still in that phase where there's still some issues with insulin resistance. It's going to take some more time. That's one thing. The other thing that I would also look at is to add something called betaine hydrochloride in addition to your apple cider vinegars, because it could be we need to help you digest that food a little bit better, and that speeds things up tremendously. But I think you're still in that phase where it's going to take a little bit more time, because if you still crave, that's the area that we need to look at. The other thing that the other guy mentioned too, and I completely forgot, he started developing blood sugar problems when he had some cortisol, which actually spikes the insulin. So the other thing is I would look at is like stress, quality of sleep, your workouts. Start working on those things as well. That can make a big difference. Okay, thanks, Ruth. I appreciate your question. That was really good. We're going to go right to Zach from Missouri. Hey, Zach.
Hi there. How's it going?
Good.
Okay. My main question here is about ketosis and also fasting. I want to know, as a type 1 diabetic, what determines being in ketosis or fasting? Is it the insulin presence? Is it the high blood glucose? Or is it both together?
Good question.
And I'm also wondering, can I actually take a few units of insulin and it be the same as someone else that doesn't have type 1 diabetes if they were to eat less than 15 grams of sugar in a day? Would it affect both people the same?
Good question. So here's how it works. what makes someone go into ketosis is the lack of insulin. It's the absence or the reduction of insulin. So you say, well, reductions of carbs. Yeah, because it triggers insulin. So it's the insulin lack that puts you into a keto state. That's the big factor. So when you take insulin, that'll bump you out of it. Even though it brings your blood sugars down, that insulin in the blood will keep you out of ketosis. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So then,
And so can I actually have a blood sugar and still be in ketosis if I don't have the insulin in the blood?
could you have a blood sugar problem and still be in ketosis?
Could I have a high blood sugar
Oh,
and still be in ketosis? Yes.
well, typically if the sugars are high, you're not going to be on ketones because your body's going to always go after the sugar as a priority first. So no matter what. So if there's high sugar, it's going to go after that to utilize it as fuel until it brings it down, and then it starts burning ketones. So in the presence of both, this is the priority right here. So that's why you have to kind of eat up some of that sugar or glycogen before you even tap into the ketones or the fat that you want to convert into ketones. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thanks, Zach. Good question.
Yep.
All right, let's go to Devin from Wisconsin. What part of Wisconsin are you from, Devin?
I'm from Waukesha.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's not too far away from Kenosha, where I was from originally. So.
Oh, nice. All right, so I just had a question about cheat meals. Now I know cheat meals are not something that you endorse, and I definitely don't either. I don't do cheat meals really ever. By the way, I'm on keto and intermittent fasting.
Okay.
I've been doing it for over a month now, pretty well, and so my birthday is actually coming up in a few days, and I feel like the one day out of the year I can get away with, allowing myself to cheat a little bit is, your birthday.
Yeah.
So, my grandma makes, really nice sweets, and so I am gonna cheat a little bit. But my question is, how can I bounce back from that cheat meal? Like, can I eat a certain thing, or what can I do to help my body get back where it needs to be after this mega cheat meal?
Got it. Okay, so there's two things. Like, you could cheat from sugar, or you can cheat or refined carbs, and you can cheat drinking alcohol, which is actually a lot worse. So let's say your grandma is going to make some cake or something, you're going to eat it. What you want to do is you want to burn up that sugar as well as you can, and you basically go out and do a workout and just let the workout, maybe a good solid hour workout, burn up all that stored sugar fast and get it out of the system. That's one thing. The other thing is the refined sugars tend to deplete B vitamins, so if you were to take nutritional yeast, that would help you. It's a quick way to bounce back. And then you just get right back on it. But you just want to make up the damage by eating better than you normally eat, and then stay consistent after that. But it'll kind of take you out. If you're just doing it for a day, it'll probably bump you out for a day or two, and then you'll get right back on. It's totally fine. I'll give you an example. I was traveling with my wife, and we were down experimenting with our next round of ice cream, which was a disaster. I'm going to do a video on that. But anyway, there was nothing to eat, like in the airport. So there's one restaurant, and this guy brought these wings out, and there was like sugar coated. I'm like, oh, great, So kind of rubbed off as much of this stuff off these wings, and I consumed them. But I can tell, like after that, no, this is not good. So it took me out for a whole day. But of course, I'm fine now. So, yeah, I wouldn't make a big deal out of it. So just don't make a habit of it. Okay, thanks, Devin. Appreciate your question. Let's go to Calvin. He's been waiting for 30 minutes. You're from Portland. Hey, Calvin.
Hello. I'm a diabetic, and I've been on the keto into the program for about 7 weeks with no trace of ketones. I take two kinds of insulin, the fast-acting and the slow-acting. And my question is, can the fast-acting insulin actually keep me from going into ketosis?
Good question. Have you had any improvements in your waist size or other body improvements?
Yes. I have lost a little bit of girth around my stomach, but as far as the weight, no, I haven't lost any weight at all, really.
Okay.
But I get no trace of ketones in my when I test at all.
Yeah. Let me tell you why. Go ahead.
Negative.
Okay. Let me tell you why, Calvin. When you're type 1, obviously, right?
Type 2.
Type 2, and you're on that much insulin. Wow.
36 units of NPH and 16 units of aspart, which is the fast-acting and slow-acting.
Wow. Are you also on metformin?
No.
Okay.
I've been consistently on insulin since 2004.
Okay. So here's what's happening. This is basically, we're dealing with a chronic problem, a big problem that's going to take a lot more time with you. And the reason why the ketones aren't showing up is because the insulin will block and inhibit and shut down the ability for your body to jump right into ketones. So I think the goal with you as a first step is to make it so your body needs less insulin. Okay, so you're doing the right thing. You should find that as you do this, your blood sugar should start coming down and the need for insulin comes down. That's your first step, because the high amounts of insulin that you are exposing your cells, that's just as damaging, if not worse, than the high sugar. Yeah. So you're going to have to give it more time, but the key is to start gravitating towards what I'm recommending, which is a moderate protein, low carb, and a lot of vegetables, okay? A lot of vegetables and healthy fats. Because what we don't want to do is, if your body is going to the point where it's not making enough insulin, you have to take more. We don't want the pH, it's called lactoacidosis, the high levels of, or ketoacidosis to start going too high. So that's the only thing you want to watch for is your pH. They say, well, you're on type 1, but it'd be interesting to see if your pancreas can make any insulin at all, because once that doesn't make any insulin, you're kind of considered a type 1 than a type 2. So that's what I would do. Get back, just stick with the program, give it more time. The fact that your waist is shrinking, that's a good thing. So it's working, it's just slower. I would watch more of my videos, keep refining it, keep maybe taking more nutrition, and definitely get benfotiamine. It's a type of B1 that will protect your cells from all that massive insulin and blood sugar your body is exposed to. Benfotiamine, okay? 4x the dosage. You can buy it online, read the instructions. Thanks, Calvin. Hey guys, also there's a great body type quiz you can take. We put a link down below so you can take your quiz and then find out what body type you are, and then you watch that appropriate video just to tailor make in your what you should be doing in addition to the basics, keto and intermittent fasting. So that's why we want to add that body type information in there. All right, so now we're going to go to Della from Virginia, Charlottesville. Hey, Della.
Good afternoon, Dr. Berg. Thanks
Hi.
for taking my call.
Sure.
So I'd just like to say thank you for your videos and your layman's way of explaining the keto and IF plan.
Oh, thanks.
And I hope you continue to do this great work, because it's certainly made a difference in my life. I am 55 years old. I'm new to this way of eating. I just started in March, and so far I've lost 30 pounds, and I'd like to lose probably 30 more. I think the thing that I'm most interested in seeing is if the set point that you refer to actually applies to me. I've yo-yo dieted for as long as I can remember.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you always talk about something sort of tragic happening in your life that sort of starts the whole gaining weight process. And for me, when I was 8 years old, I can look at my third grade picture and see that I put on a lot of weight. And I had a tonsillectomy that was a pretty traumatic surgery. There are parts of my waking up that I don't even remember. I have anyway, it was, I think that's what did it for me. And also my sister, who's 5 years older than me, so she would have been 13, and my mom put her on her first diet. And of course, I wanted to do what they were doing. And it just set off a whole cycle of bad eating. And exactly. And I've done every diet you can think of, from Nutrisystem, cabbage stew, you name it, I've done it. And I'm usually successful at losing weight. My problem is maintaining.
Got it.
So because as soon as I eat, it goes right back to what I think you call the set point. It goes to that number.
Do you need
no matter what.
Do you need to lose more weight?
I do. I do to get yes.
Okay, so I have a little tip for you. Okay. So here, and that's your main question: is how do you kind of speed things up through the set point?
Well, I just want to make sure that it's going to get changed, because I haven't strayed from this at all, because my gosh, it's so easy. Really, so compared to the other things that I've done.
Here's a couple things I'm going to have you do. Okay, you ready for this? Okay. Yes. You sitting down? No. So we'll give you officially the award of trying the most diets, and so you definitely, I want to validate, you have a AAA for attempted weight loss programs. So well done on that. Now you're switching over the information, like just smarter information to get better results, right? You've already lost weight. So now what you have to realize is that, it's just a matter of time and tweaking and improving. You're probably watching the videos, you're getting a lot of ideas. But as you improve insulin resistance, that is directly correlated to dropping that set point. So it's going to be easier and easier to lose more and more weight, because really the big barrier to losing weight and dropping more weight is the darn insulin that's high from the insulin resistance. Your body's just, it's a feedback loop, it's making more. So that's all you really have to focus on. There's a video that I did that shows all the triggers to insulin, high insulin, and you should watch that and then see what I recommend to reverse that. But there's one more thing. You mentioned tonsillectomy, which, by the way, I know this might sound strange, but a lot of people gain weight after a tonsillectomy. Like, why would that be? Well, it's a trauma in the body. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I may have a video on this. Even though that was in the past, you might want to get the massage tool that I have and work on the back of the neck, right behind underneath the skull, because that actually stimulates the points that surround the area of where the tonsils were. I know it sounds weird, but I've been very successful in stimulating that point even years later after tonsillectomy, not to regrow your tonsils, but just to help your delta wave sleep. It seems to put a tremendous amount of relaxation in your body to get deeper in the sleep, because old traumas and surgeries tend to kind of keep you from sleeping deeply. Just try that out. And I'm real curious to see how much progress. I've done this before. Here's the the treatment device. You put that right on the back of the neck, and you put that, because you want to work on the opposite points. And the only reason I bring it up, because I had a lady came in, she's same deal. She's tried everything. She actually went on 500 calories and lost no weight. So I said, when did it start? She goes, after a tonsillectomy when I was a kid. I'm like, okay, let's work on that area of your body. And her husband's like, looking at me like, yeah, right, this is really going to work. Guess what? It was the only thing that helped her start losing weight. So he goes, I don't understand it, but it worked. So try that. Okay, Della? Thanks. All right, so we're going to go right to Carrie from California. You had a detox question. Go ahead, Carrie.
Hello, Dr. Berg. Thank you for all your advice. I'm trying a detox. I'd like to try a detox. And what do you think would be best? Diatomaceous earth, activated charcoal, or bentonite clay? Oh, and I am on keto too.
Okay, good. The diatomaceous earth is good to help you with more of a microbial imbalance. It does help with toxins too, but the bentonite clay, I think, is probably the best absorbing detox, because what happens, it's not absorption, it's adsorption. So it actually ionically attaches a lot of particles and chemicals around that clay, like a big magnet, and it pulls it out of the body, but it has to be taken on an empty stomach. The charcoal is also good as well. But the other thing that I would recommend, Carrie, is if you're detoxing, a lot of these chemicals in the liver and the fat tissue are fat soluble and they're stuck in there. And you don't necessarily want to pull them out too fast. You want to gradually have them come out. But there's this system in the body that is involved with enzymes that you can basically take these enzymes and turn a poison into a harmless particle from a step one, phase 2 detoxification. And your liver already makes these enzymes, but you can stimulate them and actually get more in your system by consuming cruciferous. So if you were to take a juicer and juice cruciferous vegetables and consume that each day, you probably would accelerate the process of breaking down these chemicals from the liver, especially like the pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides. I did this as an experiment with daikon radish, 12 ounces. Of course, that was way too much. I would never do that. Maybe just a little bit of juice, and then you can do that over a period of time. But talk about a spicy drink on steroids. Yeah, I will not do that again because it burned all the way down. Awesome question. Hey guys, we're on TuneIn. If you go to TuneIn, you can find us on the radio. I think that's an app that you can get as well. And we're also on Anchor app to listen in. So that way you can be driving or whatever, or walking and listen to the shows. All right? All right, so now we're going to go right to Amen from Bahrain. You had a question.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Berg.
Good morning.
Yeah, I've been since February 25th, watching loads and loads of your videos, getting all the information and support from your videos. Thanks for that once again.
Mm-hmm.
I have lost 30 pounds from 25th February onwards. And initially, I have started doing keto for weight loss, but I can say now that I'm doing keto for all the health benefits I'm getting, like more focus, no brain fog, and I'm just enjoying my relaxed life now.
Great.
Okay, my question to you, doctor, is how long can we keep our body in ketosis? Do we have to give it a break? And if we have to give it a break, how long this break has to be?
Good question.
Thank you once again, doctor.
Sure. This is another good question. That people have this confusion that ketosis is kind of like a specialized diet fad that you go on, you go off. It's basically a low-stress activity. It's not harming the body if you're doing it healthily with a lot of vegetables. So there is no problem doing it long term. Like, what is the solution? Go back to carbs? That's where the danger comes in. Your body can make its own carbohydrate for the few cells that it needs to run on glucose. So it can, the red blood cells, part of the brain, part of the eye, need a little glucose, but your body can make that. We don't need to consume glucose to be able to give the body that because it can make it. So the real requirements to replenish the body material are proteins and fats, okay? But the fuel source is going to be your own fat. That's really the healthiest thing you can do. So I know there's this rumor that goes around that says, oh yeah, keto might work. Yeah, it'll help you lose weight and your energy and you'll feel great. But long term, it could be dangerous. Like, first of all, whoever came up with that idea is ridiculous. Maybe they're looking at studies on if you're doing like the traditional keto with epilepsy with kids where they're just consuming just pure oil and it's very unhealthy oil. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a healthy lifestyle. So I think you can do it for a very long time. And I think it's even good to go off and just experiment to see what you're going to feel when you go off. And then you're going to know for sure. I don't have to prove it to you. You can just kind of test it out for yourself and go, wow, I feel like crap when I go off of it. I think I'll stay on it. Okay? That's the best way. It's kind of a knowingness. And that way no one can kind of tell you otherwise. All right, good. So now we are, if you guys have a call, if you want to call in, the number is 866-561-4292. Because Karen actually got stuck in traffic because there's a huge traffic jam, she'll be here shortly. We're going to hold off with the other questions from Facebook, and we're going to go right and just take more calls. So let's go to Carrie from Ontario, Hamilton, Ontario. Hey, Carrie.
Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
I love everything that you do. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks.
I'm just wondering if you could help me. I'm new to intermittent fasting and keto, but I have a problem with hot flashes that really aggravate my rosacea, and I was wondering if you could help me with something like that.
You know, that's a really good question. Rosacea is basically a little different. It's really insulin resistance, or it could be a mold in the body, but it could be, chances are it's going to be more insulin resistance. And when you do that over a period of time, that should clear up. There's a remedy that I have that's on my website. It's called Estrogen Balance plus DIM, D-I-M. And the reason I like that for hot flashes is because DIM is a natural concentrated cruciferous substance compound that you would basically, one pill is equivalent to like 2 pounds of cruciferous. So you're dumping all this in the system, which helps regulate your estrogen levels. It helps balance your estrogen levels. So that way you can totally, not have that imbalance with estrogen. And there's a lot of other things too to help balance estrogen, because hot flashes, believe it or not, are an estrogen deficiency of a certain type of estrogen. So we don't necessarily want to jump right to taking actual estrogen because there are side effects. So I would recommend something more natural like that first. And I basically, in this, it's called Estrogen plus DIM, Estrogen Balance plus DIM, and it has like a whole list of things that target hot flash. And also it's good for like acne and cyst and things like that. And even men take it if they have, issues with estrogen dominance as well. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate your calling in. Let's go to Tim from Philadelphia. You had a question about dehydration. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, how you doing, Dr. Berg? Thanks for taking my call. First, I want to give a shout out to my brother, Chris, and his wife, Sherry, who turned me on to your program. And I've had some great success with it over the last 3 to 4 weeks, kind of new to this whole thing.
Awesome.
But I've had about 25 pounds of weight loss and about 7 inches off the waist, so I'm super excited.
That's really good.
So my question was about hydration.
Mm-hmm.
One of the improvements that I've seen is my thirst level has actually decreased overall. Like, I drink when I'm thirsty. It's satisfying. My problem is late evening and through the night. When I wake up in the morning, I can feel that I am dehydrated. I usually start the day with a large lemon water, and that seems to get me going. But I was seeing if there's, I don't know if it's an electrolyte thing or what I can do to balance out my hydration through the day so that I'm not feeling dry. I've also started to exercise a little bit, so I don't know if that's contributing to it a little bit. So just your advice on some hydration.
Another good point, Tim. So this is what happens. When you switch from sugar burning to fat burning, realize that when you're running on sugar, there's a tremendous amount of fluid that's being held there like a sponge, right? And now we don't have as much fluid retention basically. So what happens is that you're going to be less thirsty, and your body is going to utilize more electrolytes. And what you may want to try first, okay, is add more sea salt. If you are on a high carb diet versus a low carb diet, the low carb group needs more sea salt, more sodium. The high carb needs less because they're retaining fluid. So I would add a little more salt to the diet in the earlier part of the day or the midday, and see if that doesn't allow you to become a little bit thirstier, to drink more water, to more volume, to be less dehydrated. The other thing you definitely need to do is do a good electrolyte powder. There's one that I recommend. I have, it's called electrolyte powder, and very unique name, but it has 1,000 milligrams of potassium, so it's super hydrating with the magnesium, with a little bit of calcium, with a tiny bit of sodium, and then all the trace minerals. So that's a really great one as well, but it doesn't have a lot of salt. So if you work out a lot, I would take my electrolyte powder with some additional sea salt. Then you're going to be totally fine, and you can make some adjustments to the point where you're feeling hydrated. But very good point, because you could be low on salt and then wake up feeling really dry. Thanks, Tim. All right, Karen, you made it. You made it through the traffic.
Wow.
Some accident. We're going bumper to bumper. I made it right before her, but welcome.
Thank you.
Do we have some good questions coming up that we can?
Yeah, I'm just getting oriented. I was going to ask a question by someone about how much potassium, and as I was reading it, you answered the question.
Darn it, I hate that one.
So what did you mention, how much in any given day?
Yeah. So your body needs 4,700 milligrams of potassium every single day. Now, if you're doing intermittent fasting and you're having less frequent meals and you're down to like 2 meals or 1 meal, you probably do not need 4,700 milligrams because it's going to be hard to consume 10 cups of vegetables in one sitting unless you're someone like me that can do that, because I'll just do all my salad. You know, I remember I just did the 10 cups the other day and I'm like, this is easy. Like, why can't people do this? I should take a video and just show people how to do it. It's just you keep chewing.
You just
Now,
keep
it does
well,
take,
people aren't you.
This
is why I make kale shakes.
Well, it does take 3 hours to chew it, but still, and I have a grinder in the back, but it seems to work fine. And then the other thing I want to bring up, there's these things called RDAs, which are your nutrient requirements. Those are there just to prevent, they're minimum requirements to prevent nutritional problems like scurvy and things like that. So most people aren't even hitting those. So I know some of you are going to say, well, how am I going to find out? Well, I don't have the download. I don't think down below, but a lot of times I'll have a little download that you can actually see all the RDAs and what foods that would be high in those nutrients. But, you know, just start researching and start eating healthier foods, and I think you'll be okay. All right, so I'm going to go right to Valerie from Montreal, Canada. Hey, Valerie.
Hey, Dr. Berg, how are you?
Great, thanks.
Fantastic. So basically my question is that I've been on the keto diet and intermittent fasting for about a month. I started off as you prescribed. I did 3 meals a day. After about a week, I had found that it was honestly too much for me, so I started to narrow it down to 2 meals a day. Mm-hmm. And then I just jumped on the wagon right away about a week later, and I started 1 meal a day. And I found that actually to be pretty good, especially when I worked during the day, because I really didn't feel the difference. Then I'm in Florida right now. I had to come because my sister gave birth. And I obviously was on vacation mode. And I'm not really tracking what I'm eating in the sense of quantity. So I was probably eating maybe a little bit more fats than I regularly do. And I switched back to about 2 meals a day. And I had one night, I woke up in the middle of the night and I had excessive abdominal cramps. And for about 12 hours, I couldn't stop running to the washroom. And I really wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to know is, first of all, how do I prevent this? And second of all, I'm assuming it would maybe be because of the higher concentration of fats.
Yeah.
And is it necessary to track my macros?
Good question. Okay, so here's the thing. Yeah, a little too much fat can overload the gallbladder. And because think about it, the gallbladder stores bile. Bile is a fluid that's made by the liver that lubricates the colon, okay? So it's great for constipation, but saturated fats trigger more bile release. So you add more fat, you get more bile release, you have diarrhea, and you have a lot of like, whoa, I'm not used to all this fat to digest. And some people can't put out enough bile, so they have a lot of undigested fats that aren't digesting. So it's one of those things that's a wild variable that you have to kind of creep up and test the waters and see what you can digest. But let's just say, for example, you go out and you accidentally eat too much fat. What you should probably carry around in your purse is either my digestive formula or just get some betaine hydrochloride. Okay, it's an acidifier. And you take just a handful. I'm talking like 5 or 6, maybe 7. My guitar teacher takes 9 because he found that he can go to 5 Guys and digest his food. I'm like, no, that's not the point. But you take these acidifiers after the fact. It'll actually take the bloating out. So Thanksgiving meal, for example, you have a little bottle on there, and halfway through, take some, and then you guys can keep eating again. Take some more, you can keep eating. I'm just being sarcastic, but the point is it'll take the bloating and uncomfortableness out, but it's definitely too much fat. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, thanks, Valerie. Okay, Karen.
I like how you answer a question and then you apologize. Wow. I
Well,
wasn't
here's
tracking why
here's
you're
the thing.
apologizing.
I'm apologizing because some people, maybe not Valerie, really like a lot of fat, like keto bombs, and now I just took that away from them.
I get
So
you.
now, yeah, like
I get you.
because my grandmother, she was a great cook. This
Right.
goes back when I was 6 years old.
Oh, the 6-year-old. Are you going to talk about the pickles?
No, I was going to talk about the time that she gave me her meatloaf recipe and in college.
Oh,
And I
you
didn't read the whole thing. I scanned it.
Mhm.
I didn't see it in fine print where it said drain the grease.
The fine print that your grandma
You're talking
wrote.
about like white bread and hamburger that sucked up all the grease, right? Well, I didn't know you had to drain that. So I basically ate a whole pound of meatloaf with all the saturated fat and grease in one sitting, Karen.
Was that the same night as your deep fry night?
No, that was the next weekend.
Oh.
So I basically, in the middle of the night, 2
God.
o'clock, I woke up with the most serious gallbladder attack on the planet Earth. But then the week before, we did deep fry night. We would deep fry everything in Crisco. And this is why I'm doing this right now, this live show, because I had a lot of
Because of
issues.
deep fry night. So we can be happy for a deep fry night.
It motivates you to get better and then want to help other people.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I will ask a question now from Stephen on YouTube, who wants to know if keto is good for ankylosing spondylitis and other kinds of arthritis.
Ankylosing spondylitis is a situation where all your joints are fusing to the point where you become like a statue. Unfortunately, it's a very serious, terrible, debilitating thing. And it's an autoimmune disorder. So absolutely, hands down, keto and intermittent fasting is probably the only diet you should be on, and just get down to 1 meal a day. And that will reduce the inflammation and hopefully improve the immune system to the point where it can actually help undo it and slow it down. I would highly recommend that for sure. The other thing I would do, Karen, is I would take something called colostrum for the immune system.
Yeah.
That's really good for people that have autoimmune. Take small amounts, high quality. It's a bit expensive, but it's worth it. Take small amounts over a long period of time right before you go to bed.
Right.
Okay?
Good.
All right.
Another one?
Yep.
Okay, good. Well, I lost the name here, but someone wants to know if she can do intermittent fasting during her menstrual cycle.
No, only during ovulation. No. No, you need to do intermittent fasting straight through from day 1 to day 28, like the whole time. You want to do it.
What about day 30 and 31?
Absolutely, absolutely. But here's the thing. If you have cramps, okay,
Yeah.
when you're menstruating, there's 2 things you need to take to improve your cramps. One is calcium orotate and vitamin D3. Just make note if anyone has that issue. Okay? All right, so now we are going to go to Jimmy from Dallas. Go ahead. You had a question, Jimmy.
Yes. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks.
I had a question about resistant starch, such as like unripe plantains or cooked and then cooked potatoes.
Yeah.
Would these actually kick us out of ketosis?
Very, very good question. Honestly, it really depends on your metabolism. Some people swear by them. I personally don't recommend them simply because I'm dealing with a huge population of people with insulin resistance, with a slow metabolism. And anytime you add any starch, whether it's resistant or not, it's basically it's a carbohydrate. And so like some people, what they'll do is they'll do plantains or they'll do green bananas. It's still going to turn into carbohydrate. And I mean, glucose is still going to raise insulin. Now, if you're 18 years old or you're like a super athlete, maybe you want to play around and test it out, and maybe it might work for you. But for the majority of the people, I don't recommend resistant starch. Thanks, Jim. All right, so now we're going to go to Alicia from California. You had a question about hypothyroidism and keto.
Hey, good morning, Dr. Berg.
Good morning.
I've had hypothyroidism for 7 years now, and over the 7 years, I've gained a tremendous amount of weight, even going on different diets and so forth. and I came across a Instagram account called Keto Wonder Woman. Her name was Melissa, that referred everybody to watch all your videos and just follow you on Instagram. So I did that and got such wonderful information from all your videos. So my question is, I've been on keto for 3 weeks now. I lost 10 pounds, and I wanted to cry when I stepped on the scale. Trying not to cry now because it's been a struggle with the weight.
That's
so
wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. So I tried the intermittent fasting, the 16-8, and I was doing the 5%, 20%, and 75% fat. Would you recommend, with me having hypothyroidism, keeping on those percentage to help me lose the weight a little bit faster than what the 10 pounds that I've lost in the 3 weeks? Or is that a good amount of weight? 'Cause I follow these accounts on Facebook, and people are saying they lost 20 pounds, 25 pounds. So I know it's wonderful progress because I've had a hard time with it. So I know it's progress, and I'm proud of that. But I'm wondering about the intermittent fasting on the 16-8 and the percentages on keeping on those numbers.
Okay, good. So you brought up another point, because when you go from a 3-meal to a 2-meal to a 1-meal, like, do I keep the same macros? Well, guess what? I have a app coming out real soon here that you can plug in your numbers, because it is a mathematical thing. I wouldn't necessarily get too hung up in the percentages of macros at this point. What I would do, if you want to keep things progressing, and realize if you lost, the most you can actually lose per week of actual fat is 2 pounds. So obviously you lost a lot of water weight. So if you go down and you're losing less, don't take a loss on that. Realize that's just, now you're finally burning fat, okay? And then you're going to gain some muscle. So you just keep doing this. The other thing is that, the other thing you want to do is you want to realize that your carbs, keep those down like below 25 grams. That's really the key, per day, not per meal. Maybe even down to 20 grams, okay? I'm not talking about vegetables. Have a lot of vegetables, and then keep your protein between 3 to 6 ounces per meal. Now the fat is what I need to focus on. So rather than try to figure out your percent calories, which is kind of like, it's just not unnecessary, really. I mean, because it's, you know, you have a certain protein that is fat, and then other things are pure fat. So it's a little confusing. To make it simple, just play around with your fats. Like, eat a little less fat. Don't add any MCT oil or coconut oil. Eat the fat within the burger you're eating, whatever, and then try to just play around with that and see if you hit the sweet spot as far as being able to go from one meal to the next without being that hungry. That's really the key. So the intermittent fasting is going to help you. And then if you can't go from one meal to the next, that means you just need more fat, carry you on to the next meal until your body really adjusts. You're in the place now where I think you're getting warmed up, and it's just going to get better and better. So that's pretty much what I would recommend. Okay? Thanks. And I'm glad that you're doing great, but I just don't want you to cry, because then you'll lose all your fluids and become dehydrated. So we're going to go to David from Florence, Italy. Hey,
Yay.
Florence.
Ciao.
Hey, I hear you might be headed this way.
Through a grapevine?
Secret.
Oh, no, no, I'm kidding. I have a pretty simple question, I hope. It's about plateauing, because I was doing intermittent fasting, but not on keto, and I found I just sort of plateaued. Like, I couldn't get below 82 kilos, just stuck there.
Yeah.
And then the last couple of weeks, I started keto, feel much, much better, have a lot more energy. I'm on 2 meals a day. I checked my, with the dual urine sticks there, that I am in sort of ketosis according to my urine sample.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm noticing is I can't drop below, or if I do, I'm on this little roller coaster where I'll go down to like 81 and then back to like 83. Like, I'm having these like weird fluctuations. And I'm just curious if you've ever seen that, or if there's...
Yeah, I have. So there's some videos on that. It has to do with maybe even gaining weight on keto, right? What happens is as you start to do this with intermittent fasting, your growth hormone goes up, which basically you start growing more muscle protein, which is heavier than fat per volume. And so what's going to happen is you're going to, you may not consistently lose, but you should be, over time, if we take an average, kind of shrink, okay, in size, because you're gaining more muscle. Maybe the inches don't move, maybe your weight goes up, but it's still working. So you really want to think long term with this. And I'm glad that you realized that you needed to also add keto with intermittent fasting, because trying to do it without, you're just kind of, you're still raising insulin by not doing keto. So the goal is to bring the insulin down and then tweak it. I think the other thing I would look at, David, is that if there's hidden carbs that you're doing that might be influencing this. So number one, make sure you're doing it correct. I would get the book, read it, and then see how to do it correctly, and then compare what you're doing. You might find some things like, oh, I didn't know how to do that. So we do that. We have the vegetables, the protein, and then the fats. And then, are you sleeping? How is your stress level? Are you working out? All these are really key factors. So you have to look at the whole body. But good question, though. Thanks, David. All right. So, guys, click down below. We have a free body type quiz. You can check it out. Find out your body type, because that will actually just refine things a bit more for you. All right, Karen?
Okay.
Social media, I think we have some good questions here coming up.
Yes, Martha on Facebook is saying that she's having some hot flashes that don't seem to be menopausal. Could you get hot flashes during keto?
Well, keto definitely alters your hormones. And some women, their period stops for a while and then it kicks in there. Some women, they become very fertile and they get pregnant. And they, after being with no period, all of a sudden now they have a period. If you're doing this healthily, you're adding more healthy fats. And that's what the endocrine system needs, not just the ovaries, but the adrenals and the thyroid, what it needs to start to build its raw material and hormones that it's making. So that's all really, really key. The other thing that I want to mention is if you're having issues with hot flashes or whatever, make sure that you're adding maybe more nutrients, like especially the B vitamins and minerals to this plan, because you may be going into this nutritionally deficient and all of a sudden things start, you might have a little side effect here, whether it's a keto rash or hot flash, whatever. I mean, there's even men that get hot flashes, and because they have the same pathway, not to the degree that women do, but similar hormones, and that can create an issue.
Cool.
All right.
Okay, good. Well, there are a couple of questions, too, about either having no gallbladder or burping, gallbladder-related things. So can you touch on how to do keto with no gallbladder, or if you are burping a lot?
Well, if you don't have a gallbladder, I think you're good to go, and then problem solved. Well, if you don't have a gallbladder, the amount of bile that you're going to have is going to be a lot less, which means that you're not going to be able to have the full capacity of breakdown of all the key fats that extract the fats, that help you extract the fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, and K. So your vision at night, driving at night, hard to see, sinus issues, sleep apnea, achiness in the joints for vitamin D, bone pain, depression from vitamin D, especially in the winter. Vitamin E is skin issues, dry skin. Vitamin K2 could be high blood pressure, a whole bunch of other issues, and arthritis and arthrongus. But there's a lot of things that associated with that. But you're going to have to take some additional help, and I recommend something called gallbladder formula to take that after a meal. Eventually, you need to take that just because that way you'll get the full capacity of breakdown. Because if you're not breaking down those fats, then you could also get a congested gallbladder. It can go to right shoulder pain and have symptoms of low bile. But the only thing is that it's if you get constipated, that means you definitely need more bile. But if you have diarrhea, that's when you don't want to take bile, because bile is a lubricant.
Good to know.
FYI.
FYI. Good to know.
Yeah.
There was another question here. Oh, what about doing ketosis and taking hormones?
Yeah, so here's my viewpoint on hormones. I'm not saying not to take them, but when you take hormones, you're you're basically putting a confusion in the body because you never figured out why the gland is not making its own hormone in the first place. So when you take hormones externally, which are communication particles, you basically cause the gland not have to produce as much. So people say, well, I said, why are you deficient? Well, just because it's low, I'm getting old. I'm like, well, wait a second, is that normal? Why is your gland not producing? So I would recommend do things to improve the gland function versus take a hormone, which could eventually shut the gland down.
Right.
That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, good. And one more here from Elle, who's asking about cortisol. What can you take for cortisol? And I know you can have high cortisol, you can have low cortisol. It's another hormone. Can you say a few words?
Well, first of all, cortisol is a stress hormone, and it actually turns your muscles into sugar and then into fat. So it can make the belly, but really it's insulin coming from the cortisol. And people can even get diabetes from taking
So hold on.
Too fast.
Too fast. Insulin coming from cortisol. None of that made any sense to me.
All right, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, start from scratch.
Take 2.
All right, we have the adrenals overacting, okay, pumping out cortisol from stress, right?
Okay.
Well, cortisol is a function of breaking down your muscle, breaking it down into sugar.
Breaking down.
Turns your muscle protein into sugar. Specifically, Karen, the thigh muscle, the quadricep femoris, and the gluteus maximus. You know what muscle that is?
The butt.
Your butt muscle. So now you lose your legs and you lose your butt.
Darn it.
Yeah. So you got a flat butt and no legs. You got 2 stick legs, okay? Now all that protein converted to sugar then transports through the help of insulin to your belly. So basically you got a butt in your belly.
Oh no, I hate that when my butt's in my belly.
That's what cortisol is.
Does
that give you a good picture, Karen?
No.
Analogy?
It's better, but I think what we really need to do is to have one of those animated. We need the green screen, and we need to get in a little animated car and then cruise through the blood system to see all this happening.
We'll work on that.
Next week.
We'll work on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, good. So I'm going to go to, now what do you do for cortisol? I forgot to say. Well,
you didn't say.
I have something called cortisol support formula, but you can, but also there's, this thing works really good to do the acupressure on the body to pull stress out because it's really a stress problem.
But what about food? What food could someone eat?
Here's the thing what I want to recommend everyone, no matter what symptoms you have, put the basic things in there. It's not a separate diet for a certain thing. It's like, put the basics. Then after 2 weeks, you can tweak it based on your body type, but not before you get the keto and intermittent fasting because without that, you're not going to really get very far.
Okay.
All right, I want to go to Matt. He's been waiting for a bit. So, Matt, you're from Idaho. Welcome.
Hey, Dr. Berg. Thank you so much for all the material that you put out. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
I've been in ketosis now since the beginning of the year. It's been awesome. One of the things that I've been struggling with is I've had sleep apnea for a while. And on one of your previous videos, you had said, to go off of wheat and dairy. I did go off of wheat, obviously being in ketosis and everything, but dairy is definitely a hard thing for me to part with. Do you have any other recommendations or what I should do to try to get some better sleep so I can function better?
Yeah. How tall are you, Matt?
6'4".
6'4", and how much do you weigh?
Right now, I'm down to about 200 pounds.
Wow. Wow, that's good. Okay, so it might not be the dairy problem, especially if you just want to make sure you do a high quality dairy, like even maybe some goat's cheese. Now you're not doing any milk, right? You're talking about cheese.
Yeah, just cheese. I'm not doing any milk.
Yeah.
Heavy cream, stuff like that.
Okay. Make sure it's grass-fed. Do an experiment just for a couple days, eliminate that, and see if it helps. If it doesn't help, then we know it's not the cheese. Then what that means is there could be kind of a low-grade stuffiness from either mold or fungus that's growing in there. And I have a video on, it's called a nasal rinse, where you're doing this neti pot with a couple things. I think it's garlic, and that really will clean out the sinuses tremendously. The other thing I would do, I would get this device, and you're 6'4", use the wide part right below your skull, about 2 inches down at the second vertebra. You lean back and it pops open your sinuses. You do that before you go to bed. It really keeps the sinuses open. It's really a great way to help sleep apnea clients. But you're doing the right thing with keto intermittent fasting. That should improve it, it should eventually correct it. But I'm still not convinced it's the cheese. I think it's basically something else growing in there, that especially if it's all year round, and then you can do this neti pot and clean it up, and I think that should help. Does that sound weird? Okay, sorry. Okay, Matt, I was just kidding about growing something in there, but just try it and see if it helps you. Thanks, Matt. All right, Larry, you're from Fort Lauderdale. You had a question. Go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Berg and Karen, thank you so much for taking my call. I really appreciate it, and thanks for everything that you do for us out here. Just to give you a quick history, 53-year-old, had gastric sleeve 6 years ago, and I had my gallbladder removed 25 years ago. With the gastric sleeve, I lost 80 pounds pretty quick. Unfortunately, gained some of it back, so I was put on to keto and intermittent fasting back in October, and since then I've lost 45 pounds. I'm probably at the lowest weight almost since high school.
Wow.
But here's the problem. Yeah, it's great, and thank you so much. I've hit a plateau for the last 5 weeks or so. I do have a Tanita scale, so I measure body fat composition, water, etc., and nothing's moving. So I'm on 1 meal a day, track my macros, 75, 20, and 5.
Mm-hmm.
Blood ketones are above 2 every day, so I know I'm in full ketosis. Monitoring the fat, I take bile salts, your adrenal formula, your sleep aid. I use the acupuncture tool or the pressure tool at night, which helps me sleep. I've done some really long fasts, upwards of 3 days, to try to stimulate the weight loss and the body fat movement, but nothing's working. Any advice?
Yeah, I have very quickly, tell me what you eat in that meal, really fast. What do you eat?
It's generally a high-fat animal protein, and obviously I get my 7 to 10 cups of cruciferous. I'm doing a large salad or a drink or something along those lines.
So you do like some animal protein and a salad, and that's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then are you exercising?
Yes, I am, and it's the remaining weight is unfortunately around my belly, which is the adrenal.
Okay. So I think what I would do is I would reduce. I don't know if you're not adding any fat to this, right? Or you're not adding any fat to this meal.
Well, if I have something lean, like chicken or something along those lines, I will add MCT or something along those lines, or bone broth, but nothing more than that.
And how much protein are you eating?
I average of about 50 to 60 grams a day.
In that one meal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so try this thing, Larry. I would cut down a little bit smaller amount of protein, okay? Don't add any MCT oil. This will force your body to go after your own fat. I think the ketones that are showing up are some of the dietary fat that you're eating and not your own body's fat that's converting to ketones. Just because you've had this pre-existing issue, so I think that will be the icing on the cake. I'm sorry. No, don't mention cake. I think that's going to help you, Larry. So just reduce the amount of protein. That's a lot of protein for one meal, but and then a little bit of fat, don't any extra, and then call me back next week and let's see if we can do this, okay? Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Karen. And also next week, it's going to be Thursday at 12, guys. So thanks for all your wonderful calls, and for those of you on the membership site, stay tuned. In 15 minutes, we're going to go live, and then also on the lab, we'll go live as a little call-in a little bit. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.